Welcome back to America Right Now. I'm Tom Basile. Today's Democrats love wrapping themselves in the cloak of piety when election season rolls around, only to quickly jettison much talk of God once in power. Party clearly isn't that of Kennedy and Carter or even Harry Truman. You know, he kept his faith very private, but he acknowledged publicly that the fundamental basis of the Bill of Rights, these are his words, from our Constitution, comes from the teachings we get from Exodus, Matthew, Isaiah, and St. Paul. Try getting Kamala Harris to say that from the heart. The Trump campaign has not so subtly raised whether Ms. Harris is a phony on several levels, and Americans would be right to wonder who she really is, particularly when it comes to her religious beliefs. Quote, she represents a lot of Americans' religious story, because here's the thing, nobody grows up in a straight line with religion in America anymore, recently gushed Anthea Butler. She's a professor of religion at the University of Pennsylvania. She told that to Religion News Service. It's a ridiculous notion, of course, that nobody grows up in a straight line with religion anymore in this country, but it is emblematic of how the left views both Ms. Harris and religion as they furiously attempt to broadly give the new Democrat standard-bearer a makeover. Democrats want Americans to view faith not as a personal connection with God based on truth, as expressed in the Bible, but as more of a thin veneer of subjective feelings about one's own spirituality. This distinction is important because genuine faith in the divine directly connects the believer to the underpinnings of Western civilization, the American Republic, and the Constitution. It's especially important for leaders. Throughout her time as vice president, Ms. Harris has never given a speech that references her Christian faith or biblical values, according to the White House website. Her meetings with faith leaders generally have been centered around abortion, immigration, and, of course, pushing COVID shots. Ms. Harris has said that faith is a verb and it is about action, but what that really means to her remains a bit of a mystery. Talking about going to church as a child and quoting 2 Corinthians a couple of times isn't necessarily evidence that you're a Christian or a believer in biblical values. Her mother was Hindu. Her estranged father has been tied to Marxism, an atheistic ideology. Her stepdaughter is a pro-Palestinian left-wing activist. Ms. Harris and her husband, Doug Imhoff, have nailed a mezuzah to the front doorpost at the Naval Observatory, and they've hosted a Passover Seder. But that doesn't mean that her own faith is tethered to biblical values in any real sense. Perhaps no political figure on a national ticket in recent memory has so assiduously avoided mentioning in public statements about the Bible or biblical values or even Almighty God as Ms. Harris. There is therefore plenty of reason to wonder whether the vice president is committed to the religious and biblical underpinnings of the country. And if she is a Christian, well then what kind of Christian is she? Ms. Harris claims to have been a member of the Third Baptist Church in San Francisco for many years, though it's unclear the last time she attended services there, or at any church, for that matter, not related to a political event or a funeral. More troubling is the fact that Third Baptist is led by the Reverend Amos Brown, who Ms. Harris has called, quote, a voice of leadership, and said that she is proud to have him as her pastor. Well, here's the problem for Ms. Harris. Reverend Brown is perhaps even more radical than the Obamas' Reverend Jeremiah Wright. He is a vocal supporter of redistribution of your money, redistribution of wealth to pay for reparations. In 2001, he, like Reverend Wright, made comments blaming the United States for the 9/11 attacks. In 2021, Ms. Harris's pastor told the San Francisco Chronicle that, quote, I know America. America is a racist country. Ms. Harris has credited Reverend Brown with helping her on her political journey, but again, oddly avoiding any discussion of faith and Christ. It all sounds more like the Church of leftism than Christianity to me. Faith isn't about a photo op or only what you do in public. It is the essence of who you are and the personal relationship that you have with God. As a leader, it is also a critical link to the beliefs of our founders and our freedoms. Faith also isn't about today's concept of identity or tradition, other buzzwords of the left. Religion and faith are a set of strong convictions that translate into personal daily practices. Faith informs our decision-making and how we approach living. It should not be an enigma wrapped in a riddle, as it appears to be with Ms. Harris. And whether she's a Hindu or Jewish or Christian is really immaterial. What is important here is that even after all of this time in public life, we still don't fully understand how committed she is to any belief system connected to a higher power, let alone the one that is specifically linked to the protection of our freedoms. We've seen the consequences of leaders with no genuine grounding in an easily discernible religious belief system, and we can't afford another. This country's guarantee of religious liberty is our first freedom and the foundation of all of our other rights that we possess. The left has been attempting to redefine culture, on the other hand, and strip away biblical truth and all faith, actually, in favor of some form of empty secular humanism. Marxism, after all, is about deconstructionism. That is very prevalent in our society today. And right now, the evidence suggests that Kamala Harris could be a wrecking ball.